Hi, my name is Matt Hirschfield, Senior Consultant Optimise Engineering. The slide deck you're about to step through was first presented on our ELM user day in March 2026. We're going to be covering some of the reporting capabilities of the IBM ELM tools, looking at the standard capabilities and some of the extended ones. We're going to take a look at how hopefully we can give you some ideas around developing your own reporting strategy and making the best use of the IBM ELM tool dashboards. So who could live with a dashboard like this? What you're looking at the moment is our standard vanilla, straight out of the box, Doors Next project dashboard. So this is what you see when you first create a project in Doors Next. A key strength of the IBM engineering family of tools lies within these dashboarding and reporting capabilities. These capabilities, when used correctly, allow teams to collaborate more effectively, save time reporting on progress and issues, and ultimately give project teams the opportunity to make better decisions based on the engineering data they have within their system. So how many of your project dashboards look like our standard vanilla Doors Next project? Do you already change those, update those? Have you got any graphs on there? Or worse still, are all your dashboards filled with pie charts? So how do we avoid death by pie? We need to put together meaningful dashboards that ultimately share engineering insights, save engineers time spent reporting on progress and issues, and most importantly give all project stakeholders the information they need to make decisions that matter and drive successful project delivery. In this short session we hope to give you some ideas around how you can develop your own reporting strategy and make the best use of the ELM tool reporting capabilities. We'll showcase some of the different styles of reports that are available and showcase also some of the additional capabilities that are available as part of the extended reporting tools. So during today's session we're going to cover the following agenda items. We're going to take a look at ELM fundamentals, so looking at the reporting capabilities, both standard and extended. We're going to take a look at the sort of mechanics behind the whole reporting structures, those data sources, data warehouse, LQA, etc. Then we're going to take a look at reporting best practice, so the kind of things you need to understand as part of your reporting strategy when you're planning that out and developing it. Understanding your data model as well, the difference between artifact types and attributes. And we'll also have a bit of a walkthrough and some demonstrations of the different project dashboards and different reports that are available. And then we're going to have a look at that extended reporting capability in a little bit more detail. So what does Engineering Insights give us and what does Publisher give us? There are three main reporting capabilities. Each of these capabilities play a part in a successful reporting strategy. In terms of standard capability, JAS Reporting Service comes as a standard component, and this includes the Report Builder application. The extended reporting capabilities, which are accessed through additional license purchases, offer Engineering Insights and Publisher and Document Builder. However, if you have tokens, you can access all of these reporting capabilities as part of your token licensing agreement. Starting at the top of that list, JAS Reporting Service, Report Builder, no prizes for guessing what this does. Report Builder, for any of you that have not actually accessed it before or don't know where to find it, can be found on the home menu under the Report Builder section. Clicking on the reports icon there will open up the interface for creating your reports. So when we talk about what Report Builder can offer us, Report Builder can create anything from simple tabulated reports, graphical reports, and complex traceability matrices such as risk matrices, requirement verification and traceability matrices, anything where you need to show the links across your data, your data set from requirements through to test cases and through to work items, and further afield into the other sort of domains of the engineering field. Report Builder can actually do that as a standard capability. Let's take a very high level look at how data flows through our ELM applications. As you can see on the screen here, we've got a bit of a graphic here which shows on the left hand side there the different applications that we may have in our environment. Each of those applications will have their own specific database, which stores sort of current and the latest version details of the data. When you create reports using Report Builder, the interface allows you to select from two main data stores. So that's the Lifecycle Query Engine, or LQE, or the Data Warehouse. Reports that use the LQE data store use a tracked resource set, or TRS feeds, to access the current state of data, providing live reporting data. So that's directly from those application databases. Reports that use the data warehouse as a data source rely on the data collection component, which is another application which sits in the background, and the data collection component, or DCC, pulls data from those individual application databases through into our data warehouse. This usually happens once a day, although our system administrators can configure this to occur more often, or even run it manually if required. The choice between the data sources that you want to use will depend, pretty much on what information you want to show on your reports. If you're happy to have some reports that will show information which is maybe sort of 12 hours previous, then you can go with data warehouse. If you want to see live reporting and live updates on there, you need to use the LQE. One of the benefits you'll get from using data warehouses, though, if you want to look at sort of historical trends, or trends around the change of artifact data, then that information is stored within the data warehouse, and you need to base those trend reports on your data warehouse data source. So that's the end of section 1. We've covered the ELM fundamentals. We've taken a look at reporting capabilities, both standard and extended, what those look like, and we've had a very top level view of our data sources and making the right choice between data warehouse and a lifecycle query engine. So in section 2, we're going to look at reporting best practice. We're going to look at developing a reporting strategy, the kind of things we need to take into account of when we are doing that, looking at the data model, so a bit of an understanding around the artifact types and workflows, etc. And then we're going to do a bit of a walkthrough of the different of some sort of demonstration dashboards that I've put together across the different applications. So now we've got an overview of the different reporting capabilities and how they work. How do we make the best use of these within the tools? Firstly, we need to have some understanding of the data that we have in the system and how that data will be managed through the project lifecycle. This information should be captured in your reporting strategies. Fortunately, when it comes to reporting strategies, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. The tools are highly configurable in terms of the typesets, etc., and the way we can build those reporting dashboards up. So you need to tailor this to suit your specific industry, any regulatory requirements in there, the size of the team, your organisational structure, and your organisational processes. Obviously, the tools, being as configurable as they are designed to work across a number of different industry scenes, if you like. So tailoring them to meet your own industry is definitely best practice and what we would recommend. Okay. When it comes to data modeling, we quite often see users and organizations where they have many different types of attributes assigned to one individual requirement type, for instance. Okay. When you actually create a DOS Next project, for instance, you create using the traditional requirements template. The template includes one requirement artifact type and one artifact type specifically for a requirement specification or a module. For those of you that don't know, a module is a structured collection of artifacts, so it's sort of aligns itself to a readable documentation rather than just a container of unstructured artifacts, effectively. So anywhere where you want to be able to read through a specification with heading structures and sort of information within those headings, like a Word document, for instance, you use a module for that. Okay. Now, when we talk about having an individual one requirement type to cover all of our different requirements, sort of artifact requirements that we have in our system, if you're dealing with a nice simple project or a nice simple product range, then that's fine. But the caveat to that is that if you were dealing with a if your product type or your project requires further layers of decomposition, so maybe you're dealing with stakeholder requirements, system requirements, and further subsystem requirements, or even further down that decomposition tree, if you like, we recommend having a artifact type for each specific layer of decomposition that you're going to be going to. Why do we do that? Well, we recommend having individual artifact types for each layer of decomposition so that you can configure specific attribute sets for at each different level. The benefit there is at stakeholder level you may have a different set of artifact types that you want to capture, or sorry, a different set of attribute data that you want to capture against, for instance, a stakeholder requirement than you would do for a system requirement. You can also assign specific workflows or processes to manage and handle those and handle each of those different requirement types based on their level then. Now that allows us to create much richer dashboarding and have a better understanding from a sort of engineering insights point of view of how your data is knitting together, tracking progress and tracking that sort of clarification and categorization of our requirements across the life cycle. Okay. The other thing we can do as well is that if we've got multiple layers or a number of different layers or levels of requirement types, we can actually constrain how those requirements are linked together rather than just having one requirement type. And having more constraint around that provides us a more robust process in terms of linking those requirements down the chain, and it means that you're not going to get system requirements that are linked back to headings in your stakeholder requirements, and obviously the same approach can be put in place for component sort of level 3 requirements, if you like, linking back up to level 2. Understanding how our link relationships work is essential when we come to building our traceability reports and getting an understanding of where we've got coverage from requirements through to test and through to the various different work items that we need to deliver as part of the project. As I mentioned previously, we can implement rules to ensure that those traceability relationships are constrained between the different levels of decomposition. Looking on the screen at the moment, we have got level 1, 2 and 3 requirements, so our stakeholder and system requirements. So when we're talking about our linking and decomposition there, we use what we call our satisfied by links. Okay. When we branch out from the requirements domain into things like the test and work item domain, we've got a different set of links, link types that we can use, and we're going to take a look at that next. So looking at how we can link from requirements to test artifacts, we tend to use the validated by link from our requirement sets. So when we are linking a system requirement or a subsystem requirement to a test case, we would use that validated by column. When we are linking between items within the requirements domain, as we mentioned, we've got satisfied by, so that's dealing with our decomposition as well. And we've also got some additional requirement, linking types that we have in the requirements domain as well, such as child and parent of, embeds and linking. And we've got sort of other link types as well, which branch out to other parts of the domain as well, such as elaborated by and specified by. When we are linking across to work items specifically, so the third item on the graphic there, when we are linking between, when we generate a link from a requirement to a test case, when we run that test case, if we've got any issues and we raise any defects against it, then what we would find is that defect would appear as being affecting a requirement that is linked by that test case. So anywhere where we've got that, so that's given a sort of an indication of full sort of life cycle traceability there, in terms of starting off with a requirement that's satisfied by a test case, that's then sort of affected by a defect or an issue effectively. So when we're talking about planning and tracking items, such as work items, tasks, change requests, etc., we would use, when linking from our requirements to those items, we've got implemented by and tracked by. So we've got a whole range of different links, sort of semantics that we can use and build traceability relationships about. Now, those different links are going to give us some different insight into what's going on with our requirement data and how successful that requirement data has been in being successfully completed. So each artifact type can be assigned a workflow. So what do we mean by a workflow? Workflows are configured underneath the project management area here, and if we're into the administration window here, so here's our workflow window. We've already got one default workflow configured currently for this particular project area, but you may have different workflows created for different types of artifact, depending on your business needs. We've got this transitions matrix here, and this is how we configure how our requirements artifacts or our artifacts are going to work their way through along the process that we've got defined. Okay, so we use these things called actions here, and you'll see that we've got different states that each of the work items can be in at each stage of the process, and the actions that we can choose from the drop down menu. Okay, so this is where we configure all our workflows. Okay, now in order to, once we've got our workflows configured and planned out, what we do is, if I go into the Explore the Project again and back to the Settings menu, and we go to Manage our Project Properties, for each of our requirement types, and as you can see here, I've just got the one requirement type set up here. When we create a new artifact type, we have the option of assigning a workflow to it. So here, this one's been assigned the default one, or by default, it doesn't have a workflow assigned against it. So what you do is you choose the default one on there. So once that's been done, we go into our artifacts, and if we take a look at, say, our stakeholder requirements here, so when we open up that module, we've got a number of different steps in our process along here. As you can see, we've got requirements assessment, so this is effectively a view, and we're clicking on that view there. Okay, we can see that we've got our full requirement structure in there, and we've got a number of different attributes shown, such as the artifact type, whether it's accepted, the category, comment section, and also the status. So the status is a manual drop down that we can change, move that through. But when we actually come to the next stage here, we can see that we've got a state attribute showing. So this is the one that actually corresponds with the workflow state of the actual artifact itself. So you'll see we've got a number that are new, a couple that are rejected, in progress, under review, etc., etc. And the way we move our items through the process, I'll start with a new one and then we'll step through. So you can see here's our action, so we're going to start working on this. Okay, click on there. It's now in progress, so that's its state. Okay, so we click on there, click on the icon again, so we can work through our process, we can submit it for review, then it's under review, and then from there we can either approve or reject it. Okay, so the status attribute needs to be adjusted manually. It's not automatic, and it's not sort of correlated to that state default attribute. Okay, but this is where we're actioning our the workflow for a particular artifact type. Now if we have a look in the engineering workflow management application, you'll see that we've also got a similar sort of process working for our different work items. So again, if we go to the manage the project area, we can see that we've got our work items here, and we can select a workflow here. We've got different workflows for each of the different work item types that we've got on the particular on a project. Okay, so when we create a new work item type, we can either elect to use one of the pre-existing ones, or we can configure our own workflow state to match your business processes. And it's the similar approach to the way we are working. We were working in the Doors Next application there. So how do we action how do we move through the steps we're using the work items? So if we actually open one of our work items up now, I'm going to explore the project area, and I'm going to drop it into one of my, let's go in through the plan there. Okay, so if we open up, say, our defect, for instance, okay, this is the field up here where we can take the workflows, or the work items, through the workflow basically, and this is the drop down that we use to step those through. If we have a look at one of the other work item types, so let's have a look at it. There we go. So again, you can see there, this one here, we'll start working on that. Click on the save button, and now it's in progress, and again, these can be mapped out. We've got a couple of options on there as well. So that's how we step through the processes step through the workflow process from a work item perspective. So let's have a look at how we can do the same process with the ETM application. So if we open up our test management project, there she is. Okay. So again, we have got if we go to the manage project area, down the bottom of here in our test artifacts section, we've got our workflows, and we can see here that we've got a test plan workflow, a test case workflow, test script, one for basically each of the test artifacts that we've got in here. Similar process, same layout in terms of setting up our transitions and our states and the actions, or the options on those drop down menus at each state. Okay, and we can see our matrices here where we can add our steps in there basically. If we explore the project, we can drop into a test plan, and we can see here on the actions menu here, this is where we step through the actions that are part of the workflow, and we can see our state here as we work through and do it and it's the same for our if we go to our test cases. So what have we got in here? That's a script, I believe. So if we go to that one there, again, we've got sorry, that's a test execution record. So let me go back into here, and let's just have a browse of the test cases. So when we look at our test cases, we've got that action at the top. We've got the state at the top there as well. So as we're working through those steps that have been defined within the workflow, we can control whether what can be changed at which point, and make sure that all of our we can put controls in place, to make sure that only like an approved test case is run, etc., etc. Okay. So we're going to start off with our engineering workflow management project dashboard. So this is the engine room of our project delivery, if you like. This is where we're doing all our project. The EWM tool is where we do all our planning and tracking, all our work effort, planning milestones, etc., etc. So this is our landing point for the EWM tool. We can see that we have a number of pieces of information on this particular screen. So we're on the general tab at the moment. So let me give you a bit of a breakdown about how the dashboards are actually made up. Our dashboards are made up of tabs. You can see there's a number across the top here, and we've got these panes of information on each tab which correspond to the information that we want to show. So these panes of information, these are showing our reports, and we call those widgets. So we've got a widget here that is giving us our project synopsis, which is actually tied in with our project description. We've got a text widget here basically, which is showing our basic business mission statement. And then we've got a couple of pre-configured widgets on here showing our plans, and those plans are showing progress as well. So rather than these having to be specifically configured, these are pre-configured reports. We can drop these widgets onto there, and they'll show that information. And we've got some links on here as well. So clicking on any of these blue hyperlinks here will take us through to that specific plan. This particular widget here is actually showing us our breakdown of our team structure within this project area. So if we skip on to the planning tab next, I'll work my way across from left to right. So our planning tab has been configured to show our work breakdown structure for our phase plan. What does that mean? I hear you cry. So here we have got a series of work items or work artifacts, if you like. We've got some milestones here, and if we hover over the blue text on these particular work items, our rich hover will pop up, and it'll give us some more information about what's shown at the end of the link basically. So we can see this is a milestone, we can see the status is approved, it's high priority. We've got some due dates on there when they're going to be due. It looks like this one's going to be late. But what we can do on here, so as that's a milestone, underneath that milestone we've got a number of different task artifacts here, or work item artifacts that are associated with that milestone. So in the real world, these are tasks that we need to complete in order to complete that milestone. Okay. Now this isn't just we've got a little bit more functionality that we can show here in terms of how this particular plan view works. We're not just looking at this in isolation and seeing the work breakdown structure. We can actually reassign these items. We can change the values of these work items as well directly from this particular view. Okay, so this is quite a good way of working, sort of collaborative as well. So you could be sharing this screen as part of a Teams meeting, discussing things, or doing a stand-up meeting and working through with these as well. Okay, so moving on from that, the added capability that we've got with this is that if we click on this blue link here, then we can actually drop actually into the plan. So what does that give you? So you've got a very similar looking view to the one we had previously, but what we can do is we can actually change the way we're going to work with that plan. And we've got a number of different views set here, but the one in particular I want to share with you is the Kanban view. So here we've got our swim lanes set up, which correspond with the workflows that are associated with each of the work item types we've got on here, that grouped into the open categories, if you like, and the different categories we've got. Now the way this works is that where we've got our new work items, if we decide we need to progress these along a little bit, we can pick that work item up and we can move it to one of the permitted states that is associated with that workflow. It goes green, as you can see on the triage there, or we can move it to in progress. Okay, so that's how we would do that, move those along. And again, you know, here we've got agreed, sort of approved as being one. We can move across to them and say that these are closed, because these are actually looking at milestones as well. So we can actually change the size of these as well, our Kanban cards as well, so that we can see a little bit more data on there where it's applicable. Again, we can click on these. These are interactive. We can click on them and actually drop into the individual work items from there. So we've got that really nice, neat linking process. So we've started off with the planning. We can see what's coming up. We see what we need to do. Now let's have a look at a bit more of sort of analysis in terms of what's going on. This particular tab we have configured into 3 columns. So the way we configure the column design is we've got a little drop down at the top right hand side there, next to the name of the tab, and then we can set between 3 options on how many columns we want to go. So we've gone with 3 columns on here, because what we want to show is the work items that are new, in progress, and the naughty step here, which is the late work items. So we've got a good mix of different reporting styles here. We've got some tabulated reports. This one particularly is showing all the new work items that need to be assigned priority. This one's showing the list of new work items that need to have ownership assigned to them. And again, we can click on these, takes us into the query. So yeah, it's worth mentioning here that within EWM, the way we build these reports up is by using either pre-configured or custom queries. We can create those queries by clicking on the link on the work items menu, okay, or there's some shared queries already in existence that come out. We can see we've got our life cycle queries in here. We've got a full list of sort of useful queries. We could take those, we can edit those, we can build upon those as well if required, and save them as specific queries. Okay, and that's what the basis of our reports and how they're working. Here we've got a filed against, so this is showing the category of the work item. So as we're building these as we're working within our work items here, let's just go to my works in there. So when we're assigning our where we're filing it against here, sorry, we've got a number of different categories that we can file against there. In fact, there's two of the same there. Okay, so this is a view of our work items. Let's go back into there, and again, tabulated ones. Our late column here, we can see that we've just got a tabulated view here, and we've got some icons on here showing us showing some more information about our work items as well. So we don't even have to hover over to see that this is a milestone. It's this one's a medium priority. We get a little bit of a kilo on there, and we can actually see that there's no impact assigned with that as well. Okay, so this is giving us an overview of the entire project. If we want to have a look at something that's more specific to the user that's logged in, I've set up this particular dashboard, and all of the reports on here are going to be showing information specific to the user that's logged in. So if Bob comes in and clicks on this, he's going to get a different set of results to me, unless he's copying off me, if you like. Okay. So the final tab that we've got on this particular dashboard is our celebrating tab, and what this is doing is this is showing us all the completed work. We've got just a nice simple table down here showing all the completed items, the final status, the severity of these as well. So there's a blocker there that's been done as well, completed off, and some of the priorities against them as well. We've also got this graphical report up here, which is giving us a breakdown of all the completed work groups, work items, and who those work items are owned by. And again, we can configure these reports into the top right hand side there. We've got a drop down menu. We can change the view of this if we want. If we wanted to go pie chart, we could do. Let's click on that just to appease all those pie people. Okay, we can do that. We can change it back to let's change it back to the bar chart, because I'm more of a bar man than a pie man in some respects. We can change the parameters of which we're grouping these down as well by, so we could change that to priority if we wished as well, quite simply, and then we can have a breakdown of that as well. Okay, clicking up here to refresh. Okay, that just returns to our previous setting. The other thing I've done on if I go back to our doing tab here is just to give a little bit more insight and a little bit more of a understanding to people who may not use the tool very often. These headings in here, these are simple HTML text. I've put some text in there. I've changed the size of it using HTML code, just to change the colour, break these things down so you can see what's going on as well. Okay, thank you very much. So here's our requirements management project dashboard. Again, broken down into tabs. We've got a number of tabs that are configured to show specific information related to the requirements management effort. Again, general tab, which is configured into 2 columns. We can see how to do that there. We've got some project information and a breakdown of the team. Again, this is like a landing area, as I've mentioned previously. So let's take a look at some of the sort of more requirement-centric data we've got on here. Requirements analysis. So here we're looking at a breakdown of the sort of classifications, the categories that we've assigned to here, and sort of a view of change as well. We've also got, so this first chart that we've got at the top here, bar chart. I like to do these so that you've got we've got accepted, and we're showing kind of a progress bar as well. So I think it looks a little bit more appealing than a pie chart. Even though I'm from Yorkshire, I don't like my pies on my dashboards. So yeah, again, we can drill down into these. We can see a bit more detail around we can drill down into the detail of that. We can expand it out and look at that particular report under the report builder process there. So there we go, a report builder, a sort of application, if you like, so we can see that full screen. Again, we can actually schedule these reports to be issued to certain individuals if required as well. So there we go, we can set up a schedule for that. We can determine how it's going to be sent out. We could send out by email. It basically sends out a static spreadsheet of the actual data itself, but we can set that up so that any reports that we schedule automatically come out. Okay, close that down. These particular, so if I just close that back down again, go back to there. Okay, so the other thing I've done here as well is just to tidy the page up a little bit so that we don't have all these borders on there. I've changed the appearance here so that we're switching the trim off. So if I put the trim back on, you can see what that looks like. And again, that drop down at the top there, we can do things like tweak the query the report that we're using. We can change the appearance. We can do things like copy and duplicate as well. We can even give it a different title if we wish as well. So I've just selected here the grey trim around there. So if I click on OK, then we get our heading and all the rest of it. So just go back to there, switch that back off again. So I like to see I like to have the actual trim switched off because I just think it makes the dashboard look a little bit cleaner. Here we're looking at our trending information. So this is where we're using the data warehouse to track the rate of change, in this case for priority. Further down we've got one for the actual acceptance status, I think it is on that one. So here these are good reports for actually seeing how quickly we're getting through those requirements and doing that level of analysis. Okay, so the next dashboard tab we've got configured here is the risk analysis tab. So I've got this set up as a single column layout. Here we've got a tabulated report, and basically we're looking at the requirement specification, the requirement, and the assigned risk category on that. Now what we've done here is we're actually using some color coding on here so we can spot the variance in the options. We can, if we open this particular report up by clicking on that icon at the top right hand side there and going into edit, we'll take a quick look at how we have done that color coding. So when we are building our reports up using the report builder tool, there's a format results section on here, and this is where we select whether it's going to be a table or a graph. Okay, and we can see here we've gone with table, and we've actually got our 4 columns that we've got showing in the report. You'll notice we can do some different sort of the sorting on here. We can change the sort order as well. And here under the columns section, this is where we can actually sort of do some color coding as well. And I've basically added conditions in here so that depending on the value of that risk attribute, so here you can see whether it's high, it's going to be red, medium is going to be orange, unassigned is yellow, and low is green. Okay, and we can also change the colour of the text if required as well, and we can assign some prioritization around that. We don't just have to do the full row, we could just do the cell as well, so that could be quite good if you're doing colourful coloured matrices, etc. Okay, so if we do that and click on the run report there, you'll see that where we've got the highs, we've got the red colouring on there, we've got the greens for the low, etc, etc. So again, we can use that for any of the attributes that we've got on there. We can assign a colour scheme for that and highlight those colours in there. Okay, let's just close that one down. So the next tab we've got on here is My Work. So this is focused specifically per user. So each user is going to see a different set of data on here. These reports are basically the reports we've actually got on here. This reviews one, there are some filtering options across the top here. So this one here is actually just showing my open reviews. So these are specific to me. We could change the filtering on that, show all active reviews, or show all reviews in total, and there's also a general report for that view as well. Same for comments here. We've got a filtering option on here. Recent comments for me, my recent comments. So that's comments that are aimed at myself, aimed at me, and then the most recent comments, which is just an overview of everything. Okay. So here we have our engineering test management project dashboard. Again, it's made up of tabs. We've got our project information here. We're on the general tab, but let's have a dive into the other tabs that we've got set up on this particular project area. So looking at our test coverage, so this particular tab has been set up to show where we've got coverage between test data and requirements data, and also where we've got test case coverage against test execution record. Okay, so this is the test coverage against test execution record is shown here, and this is giving us an indication of where we've got how many tests we've got against each of the test execution sets, and we can see what the verdict of those, the last runs of those are. Further down here, we've got our report, which shows where we have the number of requirements that are actually covered by our test plan. So if we click on the green area there, we get a subset of all the requirements that are covered by a test case, and we can see here that we've got the requirements down here, and then we've got test case, and then the actual individual test case ID, and we can click and we can follow these links. Moving back, if we click on the not covered, we've got a full list of all the requirements that aren't actually covered there. So that can be useful to spot when we work for spotting that gap analysis and understanding where we've got test plans that do have full coverage in there, or I've got a test effort which isn't as outlined to a test case. So moving on to the next tab, we have got test execution, and this tab has been set up to show the progress of our test execution. So we've got the number of test cases that have been run, test attempts basically, and we've got a breakdown of which ones are blocked, which ones are failed, and which ones have passed. And again, we can click down into these and we can drill down into those charts. If you bear with my internet connection here, we should be able to hopefully get a response on that record shortly. As is always the case when we click on these things, everything goes very, very slow. So there we go, yeah. The other thing about our test case ATM test reports is we get a little bit of, IBM provide a little bit of a sort of insight into what the test is actually showing as well, giving us. So it lists all the test execution records based on the selected parameters. So there we go, we've got test cases, we've got the test plan it's assigned to, and the last result. Okay, and we can click and we can drill down further into those. Moving further on here, so as part of that test execution record, we've got some items that have actually passed, and we've got a defect associated with them as well. So this is looking at the work item traceability as well. So we've gone from requirements traceability to test. Now we've gone from test through to work items basically. So we can click on these. We can click on these work items, and we can drill down into them and see the other side of that linking. Okay. Going back to the project dashboard for ATM, the last tab that we've got on here is actually one that's been generated by Engineering Insights, and here what we've got is we've got a graphical report which is basically showing us our traceability, and we've got our stakeholder requirements here, and we can see where we've got links going from stakeholder requirements to system requirements, and then where we've got system requirements being linked to a test case, and then those individual test execution records and their verdict. And so you can see that it's color coded as well. So this is how Engineering Insights can sort of expand that information, expand the reporting functionality that we've had on the dashboards there, and can give a little bit more life to these things as well. Okay. So that sees us come to the end of section 2, reporting best practice. We've covered planning reporting strategy, so looked at the details around what you need to have an understanding of before you start planning that reporting strategy. We've given you some insight into how the way the sort of data models work around the our artifacts and our attributes, for instance, and we've also had a bit of a walkthrough of some of the possible options you've got just on those dashboard walkthroughs. So on to section 3, extending our reporting capabilities. So we're going to take a look at those extended reporting capabilities, which are engineering insights. We'll have a bit of a talk through what those capabilities can offer you, and how they can improve your reporting output. So IBM Engineering Lifecycle Optimization, ELO, nothing to do with the band. And this is we're going to be taking a quick look at engineering insights and what that can offer. So engineering insights allows users to visualize your engineering data in different ways. So it really builds on that standard reporting capabilities of the report builder and JAS reporting service, and we can expand or create much more interactive and visual representations of our traceability and classifications of our artifacts across the life cycle. So as you can see on the image on the screen, we've got some traceability, we've got an SRS requirement there being linked to some use cases. Again, it's not just within the requirements test and work item domain. If you're using model-based systems engineering and you're using Rhapsody, for instance, you can be linking these, you can be generating graphically representative views of that traceability across the tools. It's worth mentioning that reports created in Insights can be added to your dashboards and can also be included in the document formal document templates generated in IBM Publisher, which is the next tool on the list that we're going to be taking a look at. So here we are back on our Doors Next project dashboard. With regards to the IBM Publisher tool, what does that give us? Within the reports menu here within Doors Next, we can go to generate reports, and you can see that these reports have been, or these report templates that we're going to see in a moment, have actually been generated through the Engineering Lifecycle Optimization Publishing tool, which is the one we're talking about right now. So what does Publisher give you? If we open this up, you'll see that we've got some predetermined templates in here. There's also an optimized one. So what we can do here, so straight out of the box, you get a number of templates, 5 basically. This is a customized one we've done using Publisher. So the kind of thing that you get out of this, if we click on next, basically we provide it with a module. So I'm going to pick the stakeholder module here, click on next, and we can determine what we're going to do with how we're going to output this, either as a PDF or a Microsoft Word document. And there's some other bits and bobs we can do, sort of light touch customizations, if you like, putting text into the headers and footers, including attributes and comments, etc., etc. Okay, so for now we'll just click on next. Okay, we can elect to say where we're going to save the project, save that particular file, so we can actually save it within the project area if we wish, or if we don't do that, what it'll do is it'll download a PDF document to your local machine. So we'll just click on next and we'll choose that option. So we click on finish, and the report execution begins, as you can see on the screen. And what's happening right now is that all the content of the report template, so the report template is made up from different data containers, so where we've got links and out to different parts of the tool, all of that information will be pulled into one document essentially. So if we click on close there, what we'll see is we've got our documents downloaded there. So we've got a fairly formal looking document. It's got a title page, tells us when we've got it tells us our project number, project ID, gives us who's created the document. We've got a table of contents created into here, and then we've got a number of, we can see that it's fairly sort of faithfully reproduced the content of our module as a comparison. Now this is a vanilla template straight out of the that comes as standard with the tool. With Doors Next, basically, we can see we've got our information in here as well. Okay, so you can see the fonts are fairly standard as well. Now, what we can do if we want to produce a report that is that has more information on it, i.e. links to other parts of the tooling, so things like your test cases or your work items. You want to sort of create those traceability, the rich traceability links as well within your documentation. Publisher allows you to do that. If we go back to generate a report again, and we choose the optimized print module book, so this is the one we've customized basically to make it look like an optimized document. So we click on next, we'll do the same thing, we'll choose the same document again, click OK on that, click next, okay, and then click next and finish. So we'll see the difference between the two different templates that we've got on there. Okay, so we'll just wait for that to complete. Shouldn't take too long. And again, these are just simple examples of what you can create with Publisher. You have got that capability of being able to produce different sort of matrices as well. So pulling your reports from insights as well, pulling content from the report builder. Click on close. There we go. So our new document down there, so you can see that the formatting of the document's changed. We've got some additional classification fields in here. We've got some text in here, and the title page looks different. We've still got our working table of contents, much like as a Word document. We've got a different footer style, and we've got our logo on the top there as well. So it's beginning to look a lot more like an optimized documentation, because we've got a document because we've got our logo in the top right. So that's what Publisher can really do for you. Now, all of these sort of reporting capabilities we've discussed over this session, they worked hand in hand, building on sort of those standard standard reporting features that come with the tools. We can extend them further by introducing more sort of graphical views through insights, and then as we're doing all our work within the tool and we're creating all that insight and all that history and all that information, the publishing tool allows you to extract that information out with the press of a button, rather than you having to export it into Word documents, export it into spreadsheet documents, and then reformat, etc., etc. So Publisher is kind of the cherry on the cake from the reporting perspective in terms of how you get that information out for sort of document-centric handovers. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this session. So that brings section 3 to a close. Just as a bit of a recap on what we've covered in this session, we covered the ELM fundamentals. That's not a band. We covered the reporting capabilities, so what's the standard and what's the extended capabilities. We covered data sources, so the differences between the data warehouse and the lifecycle query engine. We took a look at some reporting best practices. We talked about the thinking about a data model, planning and reporting strategy, and we had a bit of a walkthrough of some demonstration dashboards that I put together on our own ELM tool. And then we took a very brief overview of the extended reporting capabilities that are available either by additional licensing purchases, or, as I mentioned during the session, if you've got tokens, you'll have access to token licensing. You'll have access to those reporting capabilities as well, so they may just need to be installed. So all that's left really is for me to say thank you very much for viewing or downloading this slide deck. I hope you've got some value from that. If you've got any questions about any of the items we've got on here, feel free to reach out either using our CET at optimizeengineering.co.uk web email address, or my own email address is on the bottom of the slide there. Once again, thanks for taking the time to watch. Take care.